With the opening of the Great Rift and the expansion of dozens of warp portals all over the galaxy, chaos in all of its form has become one of the biggest threats facing not just the Imperium of Man, but every single faction in the Milky Way galaxy. Not since the Age of Strife have the Chaos Gods and their legions of demons had so much access to the material world. From warp storms to demonic incursions, it seems as if the corruption of chaos is finally reaching a boiling point. But of all the major races in the 40K universe, the Necrons stand the best chance at pushing back and defeating the forces of chaos. While it's easy to underestimate the Necron race, as for the last 1,000 years the dynasties were barely coming out of their great sleep, and the full military might of these ancient rulers was not at their disposal, the truth is that now more than ever, the Tomb Worlds are fully functional and ready to reconquer the galaxy that they believe is rightfully theirs. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about Necrons versus Chaos. If you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you guys have suggestions for other topics, please let me know what they are in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoy our content, don't forget to thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support. If not, just simply by liking and sharing this, or even just commenting down below. It tells YouTube that you like Warhammer 40K content. It helps us out, and then it improves your algorithm as well. But with all that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Necrons versus Chaos. The Necrons are no strangers to fighting a psychically powerful enemy. As a matter of fact, they have the most experience fighting the forces of the Immaterium. As 60 million years ago, the Necrons waged a war in heaven against the Old Ones, an ancient race whose mastery over the Immaterium was so powerful that they created the Webway, a feat that no other intelligent species has been able to accomplish. And they also were able to biologically engineer psychically powerful warrior races like the Eldar and the Krork. Not having psychic powers themselves, the Necrons developed technologies with the help of the Catan that would manipulate the warp and its energies. Using Blackstone, which is a very rare substance that possesses the ability to not only nullify the psychic energies of the Immaterium, but also absorb them and then redirect the energy in explosive ways. They utilized this material to build planet-destroying weapons and defensive structures that helped them win the war in heaven. Now, one of the first arguments against the Necrons' battle with Chaos is that the Old Ones cannot be compared to the demons of the Immaterium. And it's somewhat true, as the turmoil and chaos caused by so many psychically powerful races in the current galaxy has empowered the forces of chaos, and they are much more aggressive and stronger than the Old Ones ever were. But the Necrons have been in this situation before. They've been the underdog. They were completely outgunned and outmaneuvered during the war in heaven, but somehow they still managed to use their physics-bending technology to eventually cause the enemy to flee the galaxy. And the Necrons of today's time are preparing to do the exact same thing. The only difference is that they already possess this technology, it's just sitting there waiting. All across the galaxy, the Necrons left behind pylon structures similar to the pylons on Cadia that were holding back the Eye of Terror. These defensive structures are capable of creating tetrahedral regions of space that are completely immune to the Immaterium. So while the forces of chaos have relied on summoning warp storms that allow the Immaterium to bleed into real space and more of the legions of chaos to invade a planet, the Blackstone pylons of the Necrons have the ability to clear the warp storm away, taking away chaos's initiative. This is a counterattack used by the Necrons most recently in the Pariah Nexus, which shows how powerful the technology really is. Not only were the forces of chaos affected, but every psychically sensitive being was reduced to an empty shell, almost as if their soul was completely erased. So no matter how powerful the chaos demons are, it means nothing if they can't even get into real space. The major downside to this form of warfare is the logistics of the entire ordeal, because like I stated before, Blackstone is not readily available. Not only is it hard to find, but the other races like the Imperium of Man have begun to mine for this precious war material, meaning that the Necrons' war against Chaos will inevitably cause tension with the other major races, so Necron has to fight a war on multiple fronts. That and the dynasties have to use a lot of resources to reawaken and maintain the nullifying nexuses like the one we saw at the Pariah Nexus. The Necrons also seem to have the element of surprise on their side, because whenever these structures are discovered, the enemy doesn't seem to realize how powerful they truly are. It took Abaddon the Despoiler 13 attempts until he finally realized that he could simply destroy the pylons on Cadia and it would allow the warp portal to grow. 13 times. And it doesn't seem like this threat is shared amongst the Chaos forces, because after the destruction of Cadia and the birth of the Great Rift, warp storms erupted all over the Ultima Segmentum. One in particular unintentionally disrupted a Necron construct known as the Imga Monolith. After spreading across 3 star systems, the warp storm designated as Cerberax was stopped by a perfect sphere of order created by this ancient construct. It didn't take long before the forces of Chaos bled out of the Immaterium and attempted to destroy the Necron monolith. Only the demons of Khorne, who presumably weren't affected by the psyker-canceling effects of the monolith, were able to assault the construct. This conflict became known as the Cerberax Wars, as the Necrons answered with the full military might of the Saltec dynasty. Their warships formed a defensive shield around the monolith as it absorbed the psychic energies from the warp storm and somehow recycled that energy to physically duplicate any Necron warship that made contact with it. This obviously made the Necron force grow massive in size, and the 2 factions battled on every world within 1400 Terran sols of the monolith. Humanity was forced to join the fight as many of these planets were formerly controlled by the Imperium. Unfortunately, they began to enact exterminatus on the majority of the bordering planets. Now, how powerful the Necron force will become from this conflict is of great concern to the Imperium of Man, but it highlights how prepared the Necrons are in the battle against the forces of Chaos. This is just one of many possible war constructs sitting and waiting to be rediscovered by the Necron dynasties. And it proves that these constructs do much more than just simply nullify the warp like the pylons on Cadia. This isn't to say that no Chaos Force could defeat a Necron tomb world, as not all tomb worlds are built the same and they have access to different amounts of resources. A small Necron force on a fringe world or even a core world, for example, could get swept away by a demonic incursion, but the forces of Chaos would have a much harder time defeating a fully functional crown world. Emphasis on the fully functional, because as I stated in the beginning of the video, a Necron world that only has its most basic defense protocols is just a sitting duck. Such was the case for the tomb world of Vorkath, when the demon prince Sokath Voidmaw invaded the planet, and by the time the Necron Lord was awakened, his entire legion had already been corrupted by Chaos. This corruption could also happen to a fully functional Necron force, as the protocols of the basic Necron warriors can be controlled by any malicious scrap code, just like Chaos corrupts the machines of the Omnissiah or the drones of the Tau Empire, but it's harder to enact such a wide-scale corruption when the cryptex of a tomb world would be awakened and operational, defending their tomb world. Now what I need from you guys is to comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the Necrons versus Chaos. In that battle, who do you see winning most often? Necrons seem like the winner to me, but I could be wrong. Comment down below. I know that there are things that Chaos has that Necrons do not have, specifically like C'tans. C'tans are weak against Chaos, so whenever you have a shard of a C'tan or some type of C'tan out on the battlefield, they're going to get wrecked by Chaos. But then again, the Necrons don't really rely on the C'tan. They have better powers, more like planet-destroying powers, but if you guys come up with a good argument, I would love to create a part 2 to this video, and then we can just discuss the Chaos side of Necrons versus Chaos. If you guys enjoyed this video, share it with your friends, hit the like button. It really does help out the channel, and it helps the algorithm, letting you get to see more cool Warhammer 40K lore videos. If you guys have suggestions for another matchup or another 2 factions that you guys would like to see me talk about destroying each other, let me know what it is in the comment section below. And thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.